High Historian Kale Veyron, Archive of Vos Prime, Year 4412 of the Galactic Compact. The old historian sat alone in the Hall of Endings, surrounded by holograms of dead civilizations, collapsed empires, and forgotten gods. His 4 pale fingers trembled as he reached for the last unrestricted record, the file marked Human War, classified, do not open without council clearance. He opened it anyway. Because there was no council left to stop him. Part 1, The Arrogance of the Stars. They had been watching humanity for 300 years before they made their first mistake. The Galactic Compact, a coalition of 47 sentient species spanning 6 arms of the Milky Way, had observed the small, fragile bipeds of the third planet with the amused detachment of scholars watching insects build a hill. Humanity was young. Humanity was messy. Humanity argued with itself constantly, fought wars over invisible lines on dirt, and had the biological audacity to feel things far too deeply. They are not yet worthy, the Compact's High Council declared at the 4389th session of admission. Their aggression remains unrefined. Their empathy is inconsistent. They lack the discipline of the Vorin, the patience of the Salith, the cold logic of the Mech kind. They are contradictions walking on 2 legs. High Historian Kale Veyron had raised a quiet objection. Contradictions, he noted softly from his observer's seat, are not weaknesses. They are compressed potential. No one listened. So the Compact did what arrogant powers have always done throughout history, they issued a challenge. Part 2, The Ultimatum. The transmission reached Earth on a Tuesday. 47 alien languages, perfectly translated into every human tongue simultaneously, boomed across every communication device on the planet. Species designation, human. Classification, pre-compact. You have been observed, evaluated, and found insufficient. You will not be admitted to the Galactic Compact. Furthermore, the Sol System, your star, your planets, your colonies on Mars and Titan, are hereby designated as a compact expansion zone. You have 40 of your rotational cycles to vacate, or be vacated. Resistance will be instructive for you, and amusing for us. The transmission ended with a sound that, in the Vorin language, meant laughter. The United Earth Council sat in emergency session for 6 hours. Then they did something no alien intelligence had predicted. They smiled. Not because they were unafraid. Several council members wept openly. A few resigned on the spot. But the remaining ones, the stubborn ones, the ones who had read human history not as a record of failures but as a manual of survival, they smiled. Because humanity had been here before. Not with aliens. But with itself. They called Admiral Ethan Cross. Part 3, The Man They Called. Admiral Ethan Cross was not the tallest man in the room, not the most decorated, and certainly not the most comfortable to be around. He was 53 years old, built like something the ocean had carved from stone, with gray at his temples and a scar along his jaw that he'd never explained to anyone. He had fought in 3 resource wars, 2 colonial uprisings, and 1 conflict that Earth's governments still officially denied had happened. He had lost people. He had made decisions that kept him awake at night. He carried those nights like armor. When the council played him the Compact's transmission, he listened without expression. When it ended, someone asked, "Admiral Cross, your assessment?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "They think they've given us a deadline. What they've actually given us is a target date." The room went still. "They've told us exactly when they're coming," he continued, his voice flat and precise as a blade. "They've told us they expect fear. They've told us they expect evacuation." He stood. "What they haven't accounted for is that humanity does not leave. We dig in. We adapt. We figure out what the enemy has that we don't, and then we build something worse." He looked at the hologram of the Compact fleet, 400 warships, each one larger than any city on Earth. "How long have we had faster-than-light theory sitting in classified archives?" he asked. Silence. 31 years, someone admitted. Cross nodded slowly. Then I suggest, he said, that we stop classifying it. Part 4, 40 Days. What followed was the most extraordinary 40 days in human history. Kale Veyron watched it from his observation post at the edge of the Sol system, hidden behind the shadow of Neptune, his instruments recording everything. He had been assigned to monitor humanity's surrender, to document the evacuation for the Compact's historical archives. Instead, he documented something else entirely. Factories that had been manufacturing consumer goods converted to weapons production within 72 hours. Universities opened every classified military research file simultaneously. A retired physicist in Sao Paulo finished a faster-than-light propulsion prototype she'd been privately working on for 11 years, and within a week, 12 nations were mass-producing the drive. Humans who had been arguing about politics, religion, and economics the day before the transmission arrived were now welding hull plating together in orbital shipyards, working in 20-hour shifts, sleeping in rotation. They didn't stop arguing. That part surprised Kale the most. Even while building their fleet, they debated strategy, challenged their commanders, questioned every decision. He had expected unity to look like silence. It didn't. Human unity was loud. It was fierce disagreement aimed at a common enemy. It was 100 different ideas competing until the best one survived. On day 38, Kale counted the fleet humanity had assembled. He counted wrong the first time. He ran the numbers again. Then he sent an urgent transmission to the High Council. I believe we have made an error in our assessment. The Council did not reply in time. Part 5, The Battle of Sol. The compact fleet arrived on the 40th day, precisely as scheduled. Admiral Ethan Cross was waiting for them. Not at Earth. Not hiding behind the planet in a defensive crouch. He was waiting at the edge of the system, forward, aggressive, positioned between the compact fleet and the sun itself. The Compact's supreme commander, a Voran named Aerith 7, sent a single message: you remain. Curious. Are you surrendering in person? Cross replied with 2 words: turn back. There was that sound again, Voran laughter. Then the battle began. What the Compact had not understood, what no species in the galaxy had truly been forced to understand, was what happened when humanity had a deadline, a threat, and enough time to prepare. They didn't fight like the Voran, with precision and cold calculation. They didn't fight like the Salith, with patience and slow encirclement. They fought like something that had been backed into a corner and decided the corner was the wrong place to be, so they exploded outward. Human ships moved in patterns the Compact's AI tactical systems couldn't predict, because they weren't entirely logical. Human commanders made decisions that looked like mistakes until, 3 moves later, they weren't. Human soldiers repaired battle damage mid-fight, improvised weapons from broken systems, and kept pushing forward even when every rational calculation said stop. 3 hours into the engagement, the Compact lost their first capital ship. They had not lost a capital ship in 200 years. 6 hours in, they had lost 19. Aerith 7 called for a tactical retreat, something else the Compact had not done in living memory. Cross didn't let them. Part 6, What Remained. The battle lasted 11 hours. When it ended, the Compact fleet, or what remained of it, had retreated past the edge of the Sol system. 44 ships destroyed. Hundreds damaged. Aerith 7 survived, barely, and filed a report to the High Council that would later be classified at the highest possible level. Earth lost ships too. Earth lost people. Cross stood on the bridge of his flagship, hull breached in 2 places, half his crew in medical, and he didn't celebrate. He gave the order to retrieve every escape pod, human or alien, from the debris field. Every one. Because that, too, was something the Compact hadn't predicted, that the same species which had fought with such ferocity would immediately pivot to pulling survivors, enemy survivors, from the cold of space. Kale Veyron, still watching from his observation post, recorded all of it. Then he did something no high historian had ever done. He transmitted his personal testimony directly to every species in the compact, bypassing council filters. I have watched humanity for 300 years. I have watched them love and destroy, build and burn, hate and forgive, sometimes within the same hour. We called them contradictions. We called them insufficient. We challenged them, believing challenge would break them. Instead, it revealed them. I have seen 47 species in this compact. I have never seen anything like this. The question before us is no longer whether humanity is ready to join us. The question is whether we are ready to exist beside them. Epilogue, The Hall of Endings. High historian Kale Veyron closed the file. The hall was quiet. Outside, on Vos Prime, the reconstruction was ongoing. The compact was rebuilding itself around a new understanding of the galaxy. An understanding with humanity at the table. Not as a member on probation. Not as a species admitted out of pity or politics. As equals. Finally, as equals. Kale thought about Admiral Cross, who had retired quietly after the war to a small house near the sea on Earth's northern coast. Who, when asked by a journalist what it felt like to save humanity, had shrugged and said, "I didn't save humanity. Humanity saved itself. I just pointed it in the right direction." The old historian smiled. Contradictions, he thought again. Not weaknesses. Compressed potential. The universe had learned it too late to avoid the lesson. But at least, at last, it had learned. Challenge us, and see what occurs. Unofficial human motto, post-First Contact War, now engraved above the entrance to the Galactic Compact Council chamber.